Welcome to our this second webinar. We thought we will have it every month, but we missed a couple of months. But again, we have resumed with Athena with a wonderful talk. So let me introduce our speaker for today. She is Athena Christodoulou. Is that right?
Christodoulou, yes.
Christodoulou, okay. Yeah, so she's a technology entrepreneur and a leader. She has been launching new companies, various industries since 2007.
How do I enable the camera from my end?
She has designed and built out a cafe, a spec home, clean tech consultation, and online app, Udurami. So while completing her second master's at UNM, she led a team of engineers and MBA students to win the UNM 2012 Technology Business Plan competition and was the initial project manager.
You want to have a seat?
For the UNM ASU Solar Decathlon team.
It's about installing solar at a home and things you need to.
She has been active in the clean energy world as president of the New Mexico Solar Energy Association and new technology business consultant. She brings integrity, fresh innovation, outstanding analysis ability, and strategy to her team. Whatever group she leads thrives, be it nonprofit or for-profit. She says, together, we will make it happen. She adheres to the triple bottom line business model, people, planet, and profit. So with that, I invite Athena for our talk, and she can introduce the topic. And then I think what we will do is we will hold our questions till the end, and you can enter your questions in the chat box. And as Athena she wanted, I will go through them, and if maybe some of the questions she has already answered, maybe by that time, and if not, then we will ask those questions at the end, and she will answer them. So this is the format that we'll be following. I think she will take another like 40 minutes or so for our talk, and then
probably an hour.
The question and answer. With that, let me. So Athena, you have already shared my screen, so you can share your screen now.
Yes, thank you so much, Ashok, for the glowing introduction. And I want to invite and encourage everybody to, after the talk, go to the New Mexico Solar Energy Association website at some point, and we will be posting it on YouTube, and though we're probably not live streaming it now on Facebook, we will be putting it up on Facebook afterwards. I'm going to, let me see if I can find this. Here we go. All right, so here we have, that's me. Oh my gosh, that's me again. And this topic is solar and you, mostly about solar and the New Mexico tax credit revealed. On we go. We're going to talk about the solar basics. Many of you know them already, but maybe it'll be new for some of you. How to hire a professional, because I am sure many of you do not do it all yourself. And then how to take advantage of the tax credits, especially the new one that New Mexico reinstated. So let's get underway. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing all solar and clean energy? It's mostly because of climate change. Our fourth National Climate Assessment, sent out and revealed by our scientists in 2018, has been largely ignored, unfortunately. And they told us exactly what we need to do: reduce greenhouse gases. And this is what solar does. And we do it with the sun. It's the source of our energy. It's nicely 93 million miles away, and that's our safest radiation source. In 90 minutes, enough energy comes from that sun to do everything we humans want to do. for an entire year. That's a lot of energy, and we're not using it as we should. Right now, we're digging up old dead sunshine and using it and burning it. And I like to remind people that the energy is coming in the form of photons, which are schizophrenic. They have two ways of being, they're particle and as a wave. That's the science you get. What's important about the sun, as far as solar systems, arrays and such is the path and its angle. And it depends on the hemisphere. In the northern hemisphere, which is where we are, the sun is mostly in the south, except depending on the season. We just passed an equinox. There are only two days in the entire year in which the sun actually does rise in the east and set in the west. Every other time, it's either a little south or a little north. In the summer, it rises in the northeast and sets in the northwest. And then in the winter, it rises in the southeast and sets in the southwest. And of course, it depends on the time of day. As far as solar energy is used, it is either as thermal or heat in either passive or active systems or in electric. And we'll go over those in more detail later. Passive thermal is used on a daily basis. It's what keeps our planet from being a popsicle in space. Now, when we use it individually, a lot of it matters on the sun's path and angle and thermal mass. And you see there a photo of the cave dwellings and buildings basically in Mesa Verde. And if you notice that they're set back, and this is a summer sun right now, and so they're shaded. In the winter, they will be getting the sunlight because the sun will be lower in its path. And then of course, all that stone provides a thermal mass to hold all that energy for the night. The greenhouse effect is fairly new, but we see it in our atmosphere and we see it in our windows. So this is an example of my passive thermal in my sunroom of my house. You can see there's south-facing windows, and from the shadow of the tree, you can see that it's a fairly low sun. And I take advantage, because it's on the southeast side of my house, of the sun in the winter. And then I have adobe walls and the flooring that act as a thermal mass and hold and collect that heat. And of course, the windows, they are working on the greenhouse effect, which is basically taking the sun's energy as light photons going through, the waves going through the windows very easily. It's transparent, hitting on something, losing energy and not being able to get out. See, my adobe walls are 20 inches thick once you add the 17-inch adobe block to insulation, plaster, and stucco. And then my windows give me my greenhouse effect. An active thermal is just that. Something's moving and it's a fluid. Again, you have to depend on the path and angle, thermal mass, and the greenhouse effect. The path and angle determine how well the collectors work. The thermal mass is the water in your water tank. And the greenhouse effect is, again, the collectors, because they have a transparent covering to some dark material in between. And of course, since I'm talking about water, we're using pipes and pumps and controllers to make it work. When you're talking active thermal, there's other considerations. Where do you want your water tank? Do you want it to be a drain back or glycol? What that means is drain back. All the fluid that goes through that collector drains back into a tank at night. And that's all done so that it doesn't freeze. So if you, in a climate that does freeze like we are, you use glycol. And right now they use a food grade glycol inside as the working fluid. And then third, you either use a pump or thermosiphon. Thermosiphon is basically taking advantage of thermal cycles, because warmer things rise as less dense, and then it'll set up a cycle that would work through it. pumps are the most common, and they're not very big. So here's an example of a thermosiphon system. I just pulled it off the internet. And the water tank on the top. Now that is something you see in Mediterranean countries. I saw them all over Greece and Turkey. Here's my system. It's also an active thermal system. The two collectors are on the back left. And then inside my garage is the pump and the controller, and the pipes are throughout. And the water tank just looks like a regular water tank. That's thermal solar. The next way we use the sun's energy is electric. Photovoltaic. Photovoltaic. Photons, light, to volts, electric. So that means it tells you the sunlight is going to electricity. For those, oh my gosh, it has changed since I got my first system in 2009. At that point, the panel type decision was whether it was mono or polycrystalline silicon. The mounting location and angle all had to be the same, as they were all on a string inverter. The mounting type, you could mount it. By mounting type, I mean the rack, you put the panel on, and how do you get it to stay down? Are you going to screw it down onto your roof, or are you going to put a ballast, like a block, something heavy to keep it down? And then the size, it was as big as you could afford. At that time, it was $8,000 a kilowatt. Prices have certainly come down. And then the inverter was string inverter in 2009. By 2012, though, I was able to use micro inverters. And the micro inverters were for each panel, as you had to convert the DC from the panel electricity to AC that your home could use. And then, of course, there's utility interface. Are you going to be grid tied? Are you going to be tied in to the grid that PNM runs or your utility runs? Or are you going to be off grid? Are you going to run it totally as a self-contained system with a battery, controllers, charge controllers, still inverters, and such? Now in New Mexico, it's pretty much all silicon. Even though there's options, you can go online and look at Wikipedia and see what there is. There's flexible solar, there's all kinds of materials, but we use silicon here. The mounting location and angle, most of the time it's on the roof, but now it doesn't all have to be at the same angle. You can see now that different systems have different facing roofs and they all work. The solar, I forgot why I put that. Okay, okay. Because you want to be in the sun, you want to make sure it's facing south, but it doesn't have to be perfectly facing south. It can be southeast, it can be southwest. And then it's up to you. Where do you want it? Do you want it on the front? Can you put some on the side instead? Mounting type, the roof is preference. Some companies don't mount on flat roofs though. You can do ground mounts. It's cheap enough now that it's not out of the realm. And if you want to track for some reason, you could, it's a ground mount. The size is based on your usage and your preference. For me now, if I thought of doing it now from scratch, I wouldn't cover my entire bill. I pay more in the summer. I try to cover most of that. And so my panels would be lower and not as angled. I would be thinking, hey, I've got an electric car. No, 2 electric cars. How much are they going to use? And then all my appliances are going to be going to be electric. And then the inverter, there's all kinds of things. You still have string inverters. Now the MPPT, I forget already what it means. It's maximum power. It's anyways making it more efficient as possible. And then you still have the micro inverters. Again, you've grid tied. Off grid's not so much anymore. That was my first system that was offered to me. Now you don't see it offered as much. However, if you've got a cabin or a second home, that's certainly a consideration. But batteries and battery backup are coming into play. We've had our first Tesla power walls installed last year, I think. And really the sky's the limit. Your imagination's the limit on this. There's just so much potential with solar. And the solar electric is how we power our world. It's how we power most of our world and our lives. Here's an example of one in France. This is a sunshade. As you can see, there's 2 vehicles underneath. They're being charged by it. It is autonomous and mobile, which means it's self-contained. It can be moved somewhere where it's needed. We actually have those being built by Sacred Power. We're building, not that beautiful, but that idea of mobile power using the sun. And all of this, it reduces the greenhouse gases. And here's mine. That's part of mine. So you can see the different parts of the system. And finally, what used to be niche back in 2009, 2012, it was niche, is normal now. It's almost like an appliance. In fact, you go to Costco, you go to Sam's. I think you can order one. You can get somebody to come and give you an assessment. In fact, they're beating down the doors now. And my question mark about greenhouse gases is the fact that when it gets to your house, electricity is actually clean. It's how it's made that matters. And I know that our utilities are being made to make it cleaner. We need to continue that. And we need to then turn our attention to other aspects. What's more efficient, a solar electric panel or a solar thermal power? Solar thermal panel to heat. Guess what? The solar thermal panels are almost 4 times more efficient space-wise. Those panels that you see, the solar electric panels with all the lines, those are at max. I think those particular ones are probably 15, 20% efficient, which means 20% of the sunlight's energy that hits them gets converted to energy. For the thermal panels, 80 to 90% of the energy of the sun's energy that hits them is converted to heat, which goes right into my water tank. All right, I'm gonna take a second of a break, drink some water. So you've decided to go solar. How do you do it? Do you do it yourself? Not me. I learned how to do it back in 2008. But once I saw how difficult it was, and hey, I don't know my way around electricity. I think it's backwards. I decided to hire somebody, and that's what you should do. But you should ask some good questions. You should be aware. You should understand the process, and then you should seek advice if you're not sure. My approach to any installation is that it's a remodel or an HVAC electrical upgrade. You're going to be having 2 phases. You're going to have the design and decide who's doing it phase, and you're going to have the actual doing it phase. So, and then for the buyer beware, it's a business now. You get some good and you get some bad, back to the Better Business Bureau. Understand the process, and I'll go through the process of what's going to be happening, and then seek advice. There's lots of online, and I've sent those of you who sent me an RSVP, I sent you a list of 40 questions you can ask an installer. So here's the approach. It's slightly different from the 2, thermal and photovoltaic. You're going to be looking for a solar. They have to know what the sun is doing, and plumbing for thermal, or electrical for photovoltaic. So on the thermal, you'll be seeing plumbers. On the photovoltaic, you'll see electricians. On the, both of them will work typically on the roof and in the garage, where your hot water heater is for thermal, where your panel is, your electrical panel for the garage. Both of them will require permitting from whatever government agency oversees your buildings and building permits. However, if you're grid tied, you'll also work with the utility, or the installer will. I threw up Solar Logic because that's a local New Mexico company that's been working on controllers and slimming and streamlining and making solar thermal more robust. So you might look them up and see and ask your installer if they work with that particular product. Here's the process a little bit and what you're going to be dealing with a salesperson. For both of them, you're going to be looking for a proposal first. Get a quote from anybody that comes to your house. Get two at least. Two. Okay, two. Ask for two. Don't be pressured in to sign something before you're ready. And then look for a design. They should tell you what's going to go on there. They should be able to tell whether your roof is good. Most of them should be coming to your house. In fact, I would insist on them coming to your house because there's some things that you can't see from Google Earth, which is where they're going to look at and see and look at your roof. And then there's the option. For thermal, it's pretty much all purchase. You're going to buy the system. For photovoltaics, now there's things thrown in there. Power purchase agreement, PPA, or a lease. Be aware that those are options and you want to make sure you know what you're getting into. And then for all of them, the fourth one, references. If somebody came knocking on your door, make them show you references. If you got them from a reference, you've already done that job. And financing, at this point, I know that many local companies go through NMSEA and other national companies have their own loans. And then you're looking for a contract, and that's what you sign. Sign a contract. And that's from the salesperson, that wonderful salesperson who's come with a little pink pen and their little fluffy thing, right? That's who you're going to be working with at first. Okay, and then a contract, make sure your contracts have certain elements. You should have a company, you list who's the customer, where it is, the main system components. When is it happening? How long does it take? When will they start? As well as what is involved. They'll both be talking about being held back by government agencies, their permitting, having inspection, by the utility if it's with electric. They've got to give their little okay to it. And then a payment schedule. And all at once, halfway through, make sure it's all clear before you sign and date. And then it's like any other contract. There is a 3-day period in which you can cancel for no reason whatsoever. Just remember that. Sign and date. Only a contract once you understand it. What's the process for the installation? Once you have a signed contract, you're going to install it. And that means the company is going to pull permits. They're going to be involved with the photovoltaics with P&M. There's going to be inspections. There's got to be approvals. And then, you get to enjoy the incentives. Is it going to be with a salesperson? No. It's going to be with work crew, their supervisor, the office supervisor. And these jobs are good jobs. They're technical. The technology has moved, so it's plug and play. Safety considerations are always important. Make sure you've got a good crew. Because you're trying to make it so these men don't have to go into the coal mine. Just to let you know, my grandfather was a coal miner, and it took at least 20 years off his life. So no coal for making electricity when we've got the sun, especially here in New Mexico. Where to get advice? Well, for both systems, the same organizations, the Solar Energy Industries Association, the New Mexico Renewable Energy Industries Association, the American Solar Energy Association, and of course, us. I think I am going way too fast. So I'm going to stop for just a second, let you write that down. And tell you a story. So in 2008, I think it was December of 2008, I decided I would put a solar photovoltaic system on our house. I was sitting with my mom, telling her about it. And the last question, the last reason for not doing it she gave me was, what if the sun doesn't come up? I was flabbergasted. She had already asked me about maintenance. Nope, none. The price, but I get to save money when I have it up there in my electricity, right? My husband, Christos, had been paying over $200 at the time for electricity. Now, those same bills would have been over $600. So I have saved us thousands of dollars, more than paid up. My system got RECs. They don't do it now. Those are renewable energy credits that nobody needs to worry about now. We really need to move past them. They're kind of, in my opinion, fake solar. But I did finally get it. I got my system in 2009, loved it so much, signed a contract with P&M for 12 years. It's coming up to end next April. And I would never go back. I added another system in 2012. By then, the prices had almost been cut in half. I paid almost half of what I paid for my first 2 kilowatts. I paid $16,000 for my first system. Not really, because I got tax credits and I got RECs. And, well, you'll see more. All right, moving right along. The 40 questions to ask a solar installer. I sent them to you. So I went over many of them. You want to make sure that your company knows what they're doing. You want to make sure that they are treating their employees right. We have several employee-owned companies that install solar. We have the Renewable Energy Industries Association that maintains a membership of good installers. Not to say that there's others that are national companies that aren't out there and okay, but just be aware. And you want to make sure that you're doing the type of financial arrangement that you can. If you don't have the money cash up front, get a lease, get a PPA. You just want to go solar, please do. But understand that it's not going to be as financially, fiscally beneficial as being able to buy a system and take off the tax credits. If you don't have, and we'll talk about that part later, so I won't do anymore. All of these questions are good, quick questions. You can either ask them or observe and answer them yourself, okay? What happens if I sell my home? Well, in the bold, I've put that the answer should be, it depends on who owns the system. For example, if it's a third party, then sometimes they make you pay out early, and it's almost as much as buying it fresh. And sometimes it really causes a problem in the real estate arena. That's why you don't sign anything unless you know what you're doing. And the system performance guarantee, oh my gosh, performance, how much power? All right, you're talking your panels, and they typically have a 25, 30-year warranty on their power, saying that they'll decrease at most over 20 years or 25 years or 30 years. I don't know what they are, but they're long periods, that they'll only decrease by 20%. And most of the times it's been much less. Does your system include panel level monitoring? Does it cost anything extra? How do I access it? You know, those are good questions. Now with the micro inverters and with other central inverters, I think that you can find out how much electricity you're making. Go online and see it. A bunch of these, like I said, you can read them at your leisure. And how much money is due up front? That's the big one. It should be in the contract. And when are other payments due? Should be in the contract. Again, read it. Can I add more? 29 says, can I add more panels, modules later? Maybe. If you have room on your roof, if you need it. You don't want to purchase more than you can use necessarily, because then typically you're sending it out on the grid for peanuts on the dollar. Then should I wait for newer technology? And I say there's always going to be newer. But I do want to let you know the federal tax credit is ratcheting down. The New Mexico tax credit is just reopened, and you can make your assessment then. 33, will my home value change? Let's see. Market doesn't, at the time of the writing that, it didn't include it, but I believe that has been fixed. And that might be a good topic for another discussion. And then 34, I think I already discussed that about the power. 35, can you provide customer references? That was in there from the beginning. 39, will you perform a whole house audit and let me know how to reduce all my energy demands? It used to be that before a company would put a solar system on, they would do that because solar was so expensive. Now it seems like they want to throw as much solar up on your roof as they can, which is okay. And one little caveat, if it's a pre-1990 build, you might consider doing it because you probably don't have much insulation. And number 40, if I have an electric vehicle, how much solar energy is needed to charge it? And as with anything, it depends. It depends on how much you use it. So I use just an outlet. Can I charge it when the sun isn't shining? Yeah, just as long as you're grid tied. And even, yeah, if you've got battery. And someday, maybe the car battery will be used by your house. What are the incentives? It's money and more. You have the federal tax credit, New Mexico state credit now, and it means lower gas if you're doing your thermal, or water, or electric if you're doing photovoltaic. Does it reduce greenhouse gases? Well, kind of go back to the clean energy. If you do it to take care of your gas, yes, directly. If you do it for the photovoltaics and electric, indirectly. Until we're all photovoltaic and wind and renewable energy with our utility. For your tax credits, it's really easy to do. You ask your tax professional. I don't remember it being more than one line of telling how much it cost and that you did it and maybe when, but it's at 26%. Last year it was at 30%, and New Mexico's at 10% now. What does that mean? Here, as an example, if you have a $10,000 system, it costs you $10,000 to do. You would be able to claim $2,600 credit. Now, this isn't taking it off your income. This is an actual taking it off your tax bill. And the same thing, $1,000 for New Mexico. So then you'd be able to get back or cut back the amount you pay your taxes by $3,600. And I know for New Mexico that it's a 5 years. You have 5 years to get it back. In other words, if you don't have $1,000 tax bill in New Mexico, maybe you only have $300. Well, you have 5 years to be able to use that $1,000 to cut your tax bill. New Mexico, it's a little bit more complicated to take advantage of that tax credit. It's going to involve your installer. Beyond even installing, it involves the Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resources Department and still your tax professional. The New Mexico solar tax credits, they came back online. They had gone offline in 2017, but Senate Bill 29 in 2020, it was this year. Yeah. This year reinstated a 10% tax credit for a value up to $6,000. So that $10,000 system would still qualify because it was only $1,000 that you're asking for back. It's only for new solar systems that are installed by December 31st, 2027, after March of this year, of course. And it can include storage, but it still needs to include a solar aspect of it. And it can be for electric or thermal. And I gave you the nice little website. It's going to show up on the next few slides that you can go on EMNRD to get on and ask more questions and just get the forms. So who and how does this one happen? It's not just putting it up and then writing a few little words on your tax application. The installer has to, of course, do the installation, but there's some paperwork that goes along with this. And then you as the owner, of course, have to pay, but then you have to submit the paperwork to the Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resources Department, EMNRD as we call them. And then you, as the owner, will receive notification that you got a project number that you can include in your taxes. And then, of course, you've got your tax preparer has to, using that project number, give you the proper credit. Here's an example that I did. Let me see, this is my solar thermal one. So that was back in 2016. 2016, let's take a look at that. You see that the system specs are in there. So that's something your installer needs to help you with. They need to do it. They need to write that in. They need to give it to you. They should really actually prepare the document. Now this was back in 2016. It was all paper. There's an online version now. Again, there's the website down there at the bottom letting you know. And then it's the same application, as you can see there. You can either put in information for a photovoltaic system or for a solar thermal system. And you can see what kind of information is required. That's for part of it. That's one of the pages. There's a couple, there's like one other one. And just so you know, it is the same application or similar, and the similar requirements, the similar benefits for commercial, business, for residents, and for agriculture. So if you know somebody who needs to do some pumping, maybe some well pumping out in the middle of nowhere, have them do it via solar. Once you've submitted that application, in the old style, you had to include some pictures, including a picture of the permit approval. Now the pictures aren't being required, but you still have to apply and you still get, and I'm assuming, I mean, Mark didn't tell me, Mark Geiser with EMNRD, who's overseeing the program, didn't say that anything else had changed except because of the businesses and LLCs, so now they're allowing LLCs to do it, that it's the same. So if you look over there, this was, 2013. So that was for my 2012 system. It took a while. I think I had it installed, finished installing in December, and then even didn't apply for it until probably February. So I then you'll see on your letter or your proof is who you are, the project number, so it can be included on your taxes, and the credit amount. So for this particular program, I told you that it sunsetted in 2028. There's an $8 million aggregate allowance each year. $8 million of tax credits, 8 each year. And that actually has gone up for photovoltaics. It used to really, really serious, technically be 5 million. What they done before was made it 10 million, but done carve outs. Half of it solar thermal, half of it solar electric. This time, there's no carve outs. So that means if photovoltaics takes it all, photovoltaics takes it all. In 2016, I believe there were probably 3 solar thermal projects, and I was one of them. it meant that there was $5 million that was not used for solar tax credits almost. Minus the, I think I got $1,000 or close to. Again, it's the 2028 sunset. It doesn't ratchet down. It's 10% all the way until the end. And now you can download the forms online. You can upload them online. Or that's the plan. And I believe you'll probably get your notification online. Again, there's the website down there. And when I went to that website, this is what I saw, that they are now accepting them. But however, it's not quite working yet. But you got to figure. They didn't get the go-ahead until March, April when it was signed in, I believe. And then COVID kept them at home instead of in their office. They had to do all of this remotely. So as of September 25th, it had only been a month since the site had been up and working. They now have, as you can read, 65 applications in various stages of the process. They still have to look them up. They still have to check them out. They still have to check the installer. They still actually get pictures of that permit approval. And they've only had 2 that they've approved. But they know, their department knows, listening to the installers, talking to the installers across the state, that there are about 740 applications in the wild getting ready to be submitted. Because right now, it has to be pretty much submitted by mail. Okay? They do, yes. And those application submission sites, solar market application forms, all that, your installer should be able to help you with that. That's what I would say. You make sure that they are aware of this and that they can do that. Now, of the 740 applications, how much of that $8 million might be used? Actually, they're calling for only half of it. It's only $4 million. Part of that is because solar prices are so low. You don't need, I mean, that $10,000 should probably, I have no idea. I shouldn't say I have no idea, but you're close to probably at least 3 kilowatts. Maybe 4, I don't know. And maybe some of the installers on this can chat and give us an indication of how much they charge. That is the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Wow, I did much faster than I thought. I could have drawn it out and told you some more stories maybe. Maybe I'll get an opportunity in these questions. So let's go ahead and go. Questions?
Thank you, Athena. Let us give a big hand for Athena. I think this is a wonderful talk. Okay.
This is jazz hands. You can do that to clap hands if you've got a screen.
We have quite many questions. What, 23 questions? Let me read those questions, yes. So the first question is, let me go to the chat box. I was in the chat box.
Okay, I see somebody talking about their rec credit contract about to expire. Yeah, P&M won't pay you any more recs. Same with me, mine expires in April as well. The only change will be that I'll finally have to pay more. But I'm still saving because, yes.
So the first question is, Mike, do you want to read your question one more time? Like you said, maximum power point tracking. What is that?
Oh, I think he was just saying
that was the abbreviation. She had a question.
Yeah, that was the.
Mike, you're muted.
Shouldn't be. But
No, I heard him.
The
It was.
MPPT abbreviation that she had in her talk, and she couldn't remember what it was. And I just was commenting that that's what it standed for.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you, Mike. Yeah, so next
A
is
little help from my friends, yes, and it does. It's just to be maximizing the power.
okay. So next is from Drew Gillette. 3,000 kilowatt hour per year per car, or about 2,500 watt of panel will it do? Combined hybrids. I think this is the first question. The second is the other question. So do you want to answer the first one, Athena?
I don't think it was a question. I think he was helping me out. I think he was saying that it takes 3,000 kilowatt hours per year per car as an estimate in figuring out what kind of panels you need in order to charge your electric cars.
Okay.
And okay, and then the combined hybrid solar thermal PV, they exist, but if you have limited, okay, so if you have limited space on your roof, if you want to have cover solar thermal and photovoltaic, that's an option.
Okay. Yeah, the next one is from me. I said that, you said that you can have, once you have this, can you cancel your contract like within 3 days? Is it like universal for New Mexico, or?
It's universal for any contract in New Mexico, like a car contract. Anytime you buy something, purchase something, especially if it's, yeah, no, it's a, I forget what's it called. Anybody, come on, help me with this. It has to do with consumer protection. It is not
Buyer's
more
remorse.
solar. What's it called?
Buyer's remorse.
Buyer's remorse. There it is. Buyer's remorse. And
okay.
yes, that's across the board.
Recently, I bought a window, and they told me like within 48 hours. I said, okay, 2 days, not 3 days. They said, no, 3 days, not 2 days. So, okay.
Complaining to the Attorney General.
Okay. Okay, the next one, I think Steffi, she's, that we got a $500 voucher for Sun Power because they were developed at Stanford and we were alumni. Look everywhere for vouchers. So nowadays, how often you can come across vouchers? Everywhere?
So yeah, sometimes like I've seen things from Sierra Club that, yeah, and one other thing, let's call it a referral program. Most of your solar companies have referral programs where if you get solar on your roof and then you refer somebody else, they will give you back a couple $100, $200 to $500 sometimes, if you're the one that referred them.
Okay, great. Yeah, next one from Drew Gillette, and this question is like 2009 plus 12, which is 2021. What happens when? What happens then on UNM, on your UNM contract? So you have a contract with UNM for 12 years at 2009. So what happens on 2021? So do you go out of that?
So again, that's the RECs. That's the renewable energy credits. They were paying me 13 cents per kilowatt hour. They're still paying me 13 cents per kilowatt hour that my solar system produces. And there's a special meter for it, and they take that reading. It just means once that ends, they'll stop taking that reading. Or, it won't go towards any credit for any bill for me.
So even if you
I'll still be producing the solar, I'll still be producing electricity, I'll still be making sure that I'm not drawing very much power from P&M, but that contract was strictly for my solar production. It had nothing to do with anything else. It just means they're not going to credit me for my solar production. Because at that time that I got it, the individuals, the residences and people like yourselves put solar up, put down, it was $8,000 a kilowatt. All right. That was saving P&M from doing that. And so they were giving us money to say thank you. That's what it was, to say thank you.
Okay. Any question? Let me check. Let's go to the next one. My 8-year contract expires soon. I believe that just means that PNM will no longer pay the renewable energy credit. That's what you're saying, okay. Everything
Yeah.
else remains the same.
Yes, so Rob was answering the question. Thank you, Rob.
So what happens, supposing if you are producing more, if you are giving back, you'll not get anything in a paid out of for that.
So that's net metering, and I don't know, what is the rate these days for net metering? Is anybody, I typically don't do much net metering. Anybody got any system?
I got a net metering system, and basically it's, you get a flat rate. Whatever you generate, when you use it again, they don't charge you extra for it. So your electric usage is the same. So if you're generating more than you're using, your meter runs backwards. And then when you are using more than you're generating, your meter goes forward again.
Okay.
And then there's a charge to be connected to the grid, which for us is like almost $8 a month. That's all we pay.
I think it's 7 for P&M.
$7.80 is what we pay to be connected to PNM.
Oh, okay.
Next question is from Steffi. Our friends went through Costco and they were offered an extra maintenance contract. Would you recommend that?
All right. Typically, when you deal with a good installer, they'll have several years of warranted work. And as I had mentioned before, the 20 to 30-year power guarantee, I would say no. But don't quote me on that. I've not seen that many problems with it. You'll find out within that warranty period if there's a problem.
Yeah, I was very surprised Costco was offering that. I thought that was kind of a ripoff.
You know what? It's like Best Buy. They always offer that maintenance contract. They figure, if you're not tech savvy, if it occasionally it works, but not with something like this I've found.
Okay. Yeah, so next one is from me. What is the break-even time right now? Supposing if you are making installations, what sort of break-even? How many years do you need to kind of recover what you expend?
So most of the time when I first did it, it was like 10 years. People would figure it out. It is all going to depend on many things. It's going to depend on the rates that P&M charges, because part of that break-even is because you're avoiding costs. You're avoiding paying P&M, and then how much you pay for your system, whether you get the tax credit, the full tax credit. I can't say, are there any installers over here who have a better, I don't recognize any installers.
Okay, so next one is from Pat. PVs were installed in 2020. Does New Mexico tax credit have to be taken in 2021 for 2020, or can it be accrued?
So I'm not sure I understand the question. From what I understand, you're saying if your photovoltaics was installed after March of this year, you're going to be taking off of 2020 taxes. So when you submit your taxes in 2021, your taxes it's going to include the installation that you had done in 2020. What you've done in 2020 will be, you got that?
But you also said, do that?
Oh, okay. So yes, you have 5 years that if your tax liability isn't enough in that first year, then you can continue taking it off, and you have 5 years to make use of it.
Oh, okay. So next one is from, what is that? Drew again? Let's see. Is it what I'm right? Yes. $2,500 for solar panel, a bargain 8 million at 4,000 per system is only 2,000 systems credited. So they only will credit 2,000 systems?
All right, let me do the math. If you assume each one takes the $6,000, right? Right, that's the max that you can take off.
Okay.
So 8 million, let's make sure we have the right number of zeros. And divide it by 6,000. But very few residences are going to take up that $6,000. Yeah, what are you assuming?
4,000.
4 kilowatts. It could be. No, 4 kilowatts. 4 kilowatts. All right, hold on. Let me try and do the math. How much is it a kilowatt now? 2,500?
Athena, it was $4,000 per system. In other words, the average system would be 40,000, a combination of PV and thermal.
Okay, and you've got to, is the 10% 4,000?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So okay, so the 10% is 4,000. And so if you're figuring 8 million, it's 2,000. It's
Yeah. 2,000 systems funded. They funded 2, 60 are in line, 740 have been built. That leaves 1,200 left.
Yeah, well, in 3 months.
Get yours now.
Yeah, because it has to be operating. It has to be operating. Now, it has to be operational. Let me rephrase that. It has to be operational.
So next one is, Michael, these are maximum power point trackers the same as system optimizer?
Yeah.
System optimizer.
Yeah.
Right.
Not
So
quite, but close enough.
I had more of a question
Okay.
related to that is the idea of being able to split your solar generation capacity to the load that needs it the most at a specific time. So you can maximize the amount of energy you deliver from the panels to the load.
That's all
just,
Pardon me, as opposed to a string inverter, for example. Or
well, no, you gotta, you
have
use them.
Is it not? You have to go. Depends on.
They all go through your central panel. It goes through your electrical panel. All those electrons, whether from P&M or from your solar panel, they go through your panel and then they go out to whatever the load is. So that's, you know, that's something different.
Automatic.
Now they do, yeah, it's automatic. It goes out to whatever it asks for it. They're not chintzy on it.
What I'm
okay?
talking about, Athena, is if you have a cottage industry of some sort and you've got solar panels too, and you want to be able to say, well, during your work time, you may be demanding more energy for your cottage side of your life. And at night, you're going to be wanting more energy from your batteries, but you may still be drawing energy during the day on your residential side of your life. So if you have a maximum power point tracker, it seems to me you should be able to allow that to figure out which one to send the energy to based on what it's capable of doing. Does that make sense?
So it sounds more like you're talking about, if you're talking batteries, you're talking about a charge controller.
It's sort of like that, but it's more than that. It's like, do you have to charge your batteries all the time, or can you send the electricity directly to some value-added product you're making?
Only if it, you know, technology, I'm not going to say, technology has moved along and there are different products out there. I think that the MPPTs, help me here, who's Drew, do you guys work with MPPTs?
Yeah, you're conflating a bunch of things, Michael. First of all, it sounds like you're talking about a separate non-grid connected system. And in those, you're going to take and have the problem you are saying. You want to determine where everything goes. But the system optimizers maximize the output of the panels. That's step A. Step B you're having is you'd rather use it with your business than with your house or vice versa. And that's
Or
simply
both.
a matter of how you control the electricity flowing from your batteries, which are now separate from the grid.
Okay.
So it's a whole different problem than the majority of people have out there, which is that they're grid connected and it's all your loads are automatically satisfied all the time.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So next is from
Talk
Soren.
to your system designer.
I figured so.
So next question is from Soren, Feed Daddy 365. The status of accelerated depreciation. Is federal still available? Anything at the state level?
As far as I know, there's nothing at the state level. I think the federal, I'm not sure. I mean, it's been 4 years and asked me 3 years ago, I would have known this. Does anybody know who runs a business if the depreciation schedule is accelerated still? I know in 2018 it was, but I think it ratcheted it down.
Is it not an income tax question? I mean, you can choose probably what you want to use, whether it's straight line or accelerated depreciation. That's your choice, is it not?
No, in some cases, like you can take, for example, if you bought a car, I think it's over 6,000 pounds, you could do and I think it was like now, like you could take off, accelerate it to 1 year, the depreciation, just the depreciation. And that's why we probably got so many Hummers, because people were taking the depreciation.
All the businesses out there should talk to their tax professionals, but it's my understanding that almost everything right now is able to take all of it in the first year.
Oh,
All the
Unless you get up
capital
to
assets?
unless you get up to $2.5 million or something like that. I know it's true for airplanes. Even a used airplane you can buy, and all of it can be taken in the first year.
so that
But go
why
ahead and look at it. That's part of the benefits of the revised tax laws.
Oh, is it? Because
But
then
again, talk to your tax professional.
Mhm.
They're the people who will know the answer to that for sure.
Yeah, and this has to be for business.
Yes, your business owners.
so in that case, then you should not call it to be a depreciation. You call it an expense, because if you are doing
Correct.
this.
Correct.
Mhm.
You can expense all of it in the first year,
Okay.
up to some limit that's really much, much bigger than many small businesses ever see as income.
Okay. So next one is from Rob. You say the state credit is for new solar panels. Does this include adding new panel to an existing system?
I believe you have to have an installer, a licensed installer. So if it involves a licensed installer and it talks about energy expansion. So if you're adding and expanding, that would be something I would suggest you talk to Mark Geiser about at Call Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resources. I can give you his office number.
That's really
give you
great
the-
for people adding an electric vehicle, because then they can add the panels to run it.
Well, you know, and I did that essentially. I have 2 systems, and each one I was able to take off. So, I mean, yes, absolutely. If it's a new addition to your energy production, yes. And so the recommendation kind of also filters down into storage. You can't take it off for adding storage, but if you add solar and at the time need to change your batteries, there you go. Let me look though for my phone number.
So, Athena, you said that if you add the battery to the solar system that you already have taken the credit, you cannot take again. You said that you cannot take it. You have to add more panel, then only you can take it.
Then you can take whatever change you've done. I mean, you can't take it off if it was installed last year. I mean, it was installed last year. But if you have to like change it out, because batteries, they go out every 10 years or less. And so if panels, 20, 30, there's some, I think, still in operation from the 70s, you know. So if you have to upgrade, get some new solar.
Oh, okay. What is lemon law?
Let's just try to remember what the 3-day contract limit was, but it's not lemon law. Came from
Oh,
the dark side.
okay. So next is Walter. Is a structural engineer approval required for roof strength adequacy?
Yes, that was something that you saw in the installer questions. They do need to have it structurally assessed. Mhm.
So next is Tom. Net metering still works. You no longer get paid X dollar per kilowatt hour for the RECs.
Say it again. The recs don't. The recs are kind of false. Net metering is different. Net metering is when you're putting more out on the grid than you're using. So it's net.
So net metering we no longer get paid. They don't get paid now?
I think that's referencing the end of a contract. I think that's the same
it's a
answer for a
separate
contract.
I don't know.
So we won't get net metering when our contract ends.
I think net metering is separate. Rec and net metering are two different things.
Okay. So next one is from Mike. They put the rack meter in even if you only get net billing. I have not paid PNM for any electricity for 4 years.
You and half the city of Las Vegas.
Wow, that's pretty impressive for Las Vegas. I like that.
Everybody has an excuse.
Oh,
It's not solar.
okay. Okay, that's not a good excuse.
So next is again from Tom Solomon. Net metering is your retail cost of electricity. That is how they. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the definition probably. Tom, do you have anything? You have any question or?
Tom,
No,
is
he
that-
was just helping me. He was
Okay.
just helping me.
Okay. Next is here from Rob. The websites you refer to get solar installation advice. Can they also recommend local New Mexico solar installers?
So I think on our website, we do have a list of installers that are members. I
Okay.
have to dig a little bit. We're still working on it. Website's a work in progress.
Okay. So next from Tom, so he's trying
Oh, but I want to say something about that.
to.
You should look on REI, that rei-nm.org site. Now they're the industry.
Okay.
And those will be New Mexico mostly. I think they might have one national. But this is becoming so normal. I actually saw something on, I think I was on Instagram and clicked on it. And before I knew it, I had 3 people calling me and asking me if I wanted solar. Just set up an appointment. So.
Exactly. So next from Tom, I have had solar on my roof since 2006. No maintenance required. So what about you don't have to clean it, like those dusts and things like that? You don't. I mean, you have on a regular basis. You have to just go and clean it. How regular? How often you have to do that?
I just let the rain wash it.
Oh, okay. Okay, so
It probably would do good with some window wiping, window washing. But I don't know.
so next from Drew, looks like 5 years if you are straight net metering and get both tax credit costs are now below 35 cents per watt.
$3 per watt.
Per watt.
They've got the ability to control remotely.
So you're saying that $10,000 would buy you more than 3 kilowatts?
Yeah,
$3.
5-year payback would be what you're looking at, which you
Oh,
should
what
rephrase.
payback?
Yeah, 5-year payback on the systems after all
That's-
those rebates.
Oh,
But
okay.
what you should rephrase payback as rate of return. It's like
Uh-huh.
getting 20% on your money
Okay.
a year. Try that at a bank account.
I know. I think I got 10% with my
When you
first
start,
system.
yes.
Yeah, the first system. But the second system, once I added that, it was like an 18% return.
Right.
So you get tax credit in 2 times, like, you depreciate, not depreciate, you make it an expense. The whole thing, you get it out and then your tax credit?
Rephrase your question.
No.
There's a lot of feedback.
So when you have a system, so you can, as you are saying, like nowadays you can depreciate. No, you don't depreciate. You just make it an expense. The whole money you are expending in the same year. So you're getting a tax benefit on that, and then you are getting a tax credit also, or using all the tax credit that is applicable. You can take both ways, is it not?
You're muted, Athena.
There we go. So yeah, two ways to look at how you get a return. It's that you don't, it's that the tax credits, both federal and state, and then on the avoided cost because you're
Right.
paying less electricity.
Yeah, okay. So looks, the last one, I think, last one, Tom Solomon got to go. Okay, he's left. So next is from Larry. Larry has left. So I think that's about the questions that we had.
Oh, I asked one.
No, 4 questions. Sorry about that. Soren, okay, thank you. Michael D. Smart metering for the future. Is
Smart
that
grid.
something everyone should be considering for their purchases now? The ability to buy and sell electricity according to time-dependent price point. Smart metering.
That would involve us getting advanced metering and starting to do time of use rates.
Mhm.
That's a whole nother ball game. Not to say that we're not going to do it, just it's not where we're at right now. Definitely, we should consider the advanced metering. We can do more demand response. So for example, instead of heating your water at 5 o'clock when they're starting to see a peak because the sun is going down and so we're not getting as much electricity from solar, then everybody's turning everything on. They can turn off your hot water heater if it's electric, and until it passes in that half hour or something. In Florida, I used to live in Florida. Oh my gosh, humid, hot Florida. And I remember we had demand response. And this was 30 years ago, in which they would turn off my air conditioner. They would cycle my air conditioner, half an hour off, half an hour on, whenever we'd reach those summer peaks. So this is not new technology.
Okay, so next one is from Mike. When I put solar in 1992, I was the odd one. Now we have 4 on our block. Yes. Okay, now next one is from Steffi. Random fact. New Mexico makes more than half of all solar cells that go up into space.
Mark Breen must be around here somewhere because that is Solero.
Yeah. Fortunately, only a very small percentage of cells go into space.
Yes, and they're very expensive. They're made a different way, but they're very efficient.
Yeah, of course.
Athena, I'd like to comment a bit on your comment about Florida. I have a house there now, which I've had for 8 years, and it used to be on demand response, like they can turn off your air conditioner and your hot water heater, etc. And that was great, and I was getting, I don't know, $10 to $20 a month off on my summer bills and winter bills. And then I added solar, and I ran into this little glitch in the way they apply things. Because you have no consumption really once you put a good sized solar system on, you now no longer, you still qualified for the demand credit, but because you use less than 1,000 kilowatt hours a month, they reduce the demand credit to 0. So I'm still fighting with them about how, wait a minute, I haven't changed my actual usage of electricity. I still have a hot water heater. You can still shut it off when you want to, and it does reduce your demand. How come you're penalizing me because I have a solar system? But it's a long fight, and we're working on it.
Well,
Yeah.
keep it up.
Another rule
Keep
very
it up.
well.
Yeah.
So the heads up for New Mexico is if they start doing demand reduction programs, make sure that they understand that solar buildings still can do demand reduction by not consuming electricity. That means they just put more on the grid for them to use during the peaks. And they should get full credit for demand reduction like any other residents. It's a good fight to have with your utility when the subject comes up.
Yeah, well, we can also say we're keeping their peaks from being in the middle of the day. And
Yes,
we're still helping at the new peak.
right. And if they just go to daylight saving +3, that peak would be at, instead of 7 p.m., it would be at 3 p.m., you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think any other question now that all questions, and these are the
Great
questions.
job. Really great job, guys.
I'd like to congratulate Athena on a very intelligent and intelligible talk.
Yes, very
And
much.
Yes.
really enjoyed that.
I have one more question concerning the quality of solar panels. It appears as though they're coming out with flexible and paintable photovoltaics that people might want to consider depending, but perovskite-based systems. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
So in my experience as a graduate student, it's been 8 years, so I don't know what else has come out. And I do know like Sandia is working on something else that's very flexible, is silicone based. So we just need to wait and see when they get out and are used in the public. From what I understand, the Sandia product is flexible, it's silicone, its cost saving is going to be in the installation. So we might not see, like a price difference, but it might help it go faster.
Do you think
Right
it's
now,
likely? Do you think it's likely we'll see organic solars?
the problem with organic solars is they typically were low efficient. So whereas we're in efficiency is based on the materials and how you make it. So
Right.
silicon has like a maximum around,
Durable
I think,
quality.
30%. And then the multi-junction cells that go up in space, they're up higher. I haven't looked. Go look in Wikipedia, go look on NREL's site. They have tracked it over the years, the efficiencies and everything. But it's a materials thing. It is.
And then meanwhile, install your system now.
Install your system now.
Don't wait for the better one. It'll come, but it's going to be so long. You better do the savings now.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, you can either have fast, cheap, or good quality. Right now, we've got good quality and cheap. Not quite so fast, but you're not gonna. What are you gonna wait for? I mean, it's fine. Most roofs can take it and handle, and then out in the fields, utility solar is really going big.
The biggest, the highest commercial efficiency, is that still sun power?
I couldn't tell you on that. Maybe
It's
Drew, do you know?
not sure which one, but they keep they keep leapfrogging each other. And a deliverable, viable panel now is above 20 in the 21s and 22s at the residential scale level. And then you throw in the bifacial panels where you get some off of the backside of the panel, essentially for free. And those are getting up, if you count it only per the front face, those are getting up into the 30s for efficiencies.
So this URL I put in there after Beautiful Solar, land art generator, if you go on their site, they have a field guide and they talk about all different kinds of emerging renewable energy from the bifacial, we also mentioned the photovoltaic with a thermal combination today. They have all kinds, even the thin films that can go over your photovoltaics to make all different kinds of colors and, you know, thin films. And they are all put in these gorgeous designs that professionals and kids have put together to make solar beautiful. So I highly recommend that you look at it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Steffi.
Great
I think
job.
we're going to
Gotta
be
run.
closing up.
Good to see you, Athena. Excellent.
It was good. It was so good to see everybody too. Reminder, Steffi had put a link for the solar tour. And I know some people came on late. You're not going to have it in your chat, but if she could put it in again,
Sure.
then you'll have a link for the solar tour. This is the national solar tour that is being done virtually. I'm not sure I'm under NMSEA, but I know I submitted a file,
I think you were
nice
under
video, and then you could see all my systems and hear me talk again.
Yeah. I'm under
And I think-
NMSEA and some of our other members are too.
Good, it starts next Monday, right? And it
And
goes
our
for about a
intern-
week.
Our intern talk is there, and then also the Santa Fe schools and some of the designs that students in our UNM camp made for the Fly Ranch in Nevada with this land art group. There's a photo book of their designs there, so you can look that up too.
Oh, nice. Okay, so
How do you see the link in Zoom? Does anybody know how to get to that link, or is it only in the email?
Oh, because you have an iPad, huh?
Right.
Can you see the chat?
I have to go up to. I see chat. There's 10 people in it, right? If I go up to the settings part.
Well, Athena, do you have Michael's email address?
I do. So
So
if you,
can forward.
yeah,
Oh,
I can forward
I just,
anything.
Steffi, I just found it. Nationalsolartour.org.
Yeah.
Yeah, secure website. Okay. All right. Thank you.
okay, thank you very much. I think this is a very nice talk. You know, thank you. Let us give a big hand to Athena's talk. Yes.
Thank you.
Learned a lot.
Thank you so much for coming and for helping put this together. I did not do this all by myself. Okay, the presentation I did, but this thing, seeing everybody was so good. We should just have a meeting and not worry about a presentation sometime.
Yeah.
Just a discussion. Maybe cocktail hour or green drinks. There it is. Have a green drinks virtually.
Yeah.
That'd be so much fun. Yeah, bring your favorite beverage.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
anyway, I think that's
Thank you
it.
all for
We're ending on time. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oops.
Thanks all.